Lightning cracks over the spires of Madrid as the euro dips, electrifying the night with uncertainty. In Prague, the Vltava reflects the neon glow of banks tightening their grips as whispers of contagion drift across Central Europe. From Lisbon's waterfront to Tallinn's train yards, the continent trembles in the hush before dawn. In the past 24 hours, Europe's financial heartbeats altered their rhythm. In Frankfurt, the DAX hedged sideways, traders' eyes flicking across multiple screens as volatility pulses into the margins. Paris watched its credit spreads widen and Milan's markets slipped under pressure, Italy's sovereign yields jitter. The euro itself wobbled, buffeted by hawkish rhetoric from the ECB and by global rate surprises. Underneath, confidence erodes, institutional steadiness creaks, investors brace for policy fractures to show. Energy systems took center stage as a theater of risk. In Belgium and the Netherlands, gas storage levels sag below seasonal norms. Pipelines from the east hum under strain. Europe's scramble for LNG intensifies with tankers rerouting from US ports, competing with Asian bids as shipping insurance rates climb. Across Scandinavia and in parts of the Balkans, wind turbines spin and drizzle, generating hope. Elsewhere, towns in southern Italy crease with brownouts and rising bills. Electric grids vibrate with tenuous balance, every fault line now a potential blackout. Trade flows crack under growing protectionism. European steel and aluminum face countermeasures abroad, and the renewed emphasis on fair trade in Brussels sends tremors through export towns. Automotive clusters in Bavaria, Spain, and the Czech Republic strain under input bottlenecks and customs friction. Meanwhile, new reciprocity proposals with the US loom, raising stakes in auto, machinery, and agri-goods sectors. Trade corridors that once ran smooth now rattle with uncertainty and the hum of commerce risks turning into a stutter. Policy coordination across capitals feels less choreographed than improvised. In Brussels, Commission officials yearn for cohesion, but each capital presses its fault lines. France teases more fiscal space despite EU rules. Poland balks at redistribution. Greece implores for flexibility on debt. The ECB debates energy-linked inflation. National central banks lobby for differentiated support. Simultaneously, defense, infrastructure, and climate agendas interlace, dragging economic decisions into geopolitical territory. Where once the European story was one of unity, now it's an ensemble of voices vying to be heard. Across regions, the contrasts sharpen. In Scandinavia, fjords mirror turbines and capital flows into cleantech firms. In Germany, glass towers rise over the Rhine, and manufacturers still hum with precision. In Spain and Portugal, sunlight falls across vineyards, solar panels, and aging towns where youth leave. In Poland and Lithuania, rails connect to East European corridors. Young engineers chase startups, while rural districts strain. In Greece, olive groves sit beside struggles for grid investment. The continent now pulses with multiple tempos, not one rhythm, but many. How can these disparate strands weave into a single song? Across the Atlantic, the US eyes Europe's struggle with keen interest. American rates move with weight, and when the Fed whispers hawkishness, it echoes in European sovereign debt auctions. LNG exports from American terminals now feed Europe's winter furnace, binding both continents in chained energy fate. Trade tensions flicker too. Reciprocity demands from Washington threaten to fracture what had been a transatlantic economic alliance. Europe's challenge is to dance with power, not be subdued by it. To the east and south, Asia watches and presses forward. China's industrial engine presses into European import markets. Its shipyards disgorge machinery and electronics that undercut local producers. China's belt and road corridors edge closer to Mediterranean ports, offering alternatives to European dominance in Africa. Supply chains fracture and rebuild. Rare earths, batteries, microchips become instruments in silent geopolitical struggle. Europe must choose paths, whether to decouple, reorient, or absorb the risk. In Africa and the Sahel, Europe projects infrastructural ambition. Solar farms in Morocco, wind corridors along the Nile, transmission lines across the Sahara promise return and influence. Europe's capital and expertise flow outward, but so do dependencies and questions of sovereignty. In that exchange, Europe gains leverage over energy, but also responsibility toward climate justice and local voices. Every megawatt sent north has consequence in desert sands. The narrative of power meets the narrative of justice. In Latin America and Southeast Asia, Europe's green transition casts long shadows. Its demand for lithium, copper, and cobalt sends investment surging into mines from Peru to Congo, Indonesia to Chile. Regulation and traceability rules attempt to restrain exploitation. Yet local fractures emerge as communities demand rights, wages, and environmental oversight. Europe's industrial needs ripple into rivers and hillsides elsewhere. The legitimacy it seeks in green leadership now hinges on moral currency far beyond its borders. Even beyond Europe's periphery, small towns, resource hubs, corridor states feel tremors. A lithium plant in northern Greece might sway Chinese investment in Africa. A rail link in Ukraine shifts freight maps in Asia. Grid interconnectors in the Balkans connect more than energy, they map influence. Europe is no longer a continent bounded by seas. It is a node in a global network of power, supply, climate, and human hope. In Katowice, Poland, factory worker Piotr enters a cold cement floor before dawn. The machines hiss, but nearby furnaces have cut back hours. Orders from German clients waver. Outside, the air smells of dust and diesel. His boots echo from vast halls. He grips a wrench and listens to the hum. Each strike of metal is a prayer, that the factory stays alive, that his wages remain. In Andalusia, a beekeeper, Maria, steps among hives at first light. The wind dances across citrus groves. She tastes dew on her lips. The cost of diesel for tractors and sugar feeds has surged. The cost of jars to bring honey to Paris, Amsterdam, or Shanghai now clutches her wages. She worries. Will her honey still ship? Will middlemen absorb the margin? Europe's tariffs and energy shocks anchor in her wooden boxes. In Budapest, a young software developer, Andras, works in a glass-clad tower overlooking the Danube. He codes energy management algorithms, hoping to optimize grids. He stares at data, stress spikes, voltage drops, grid anomalies. He knows his work may forestall blackouts in southern Italy or Romania. Yet he frets about funding cuts, about political cycles that undervalue long view. He moves from screen to window, watching cranes across the river, dreaming of scale. In Porto, a textile designer insists at a wooden table strewn with fabrics. The patterns echo waves and azuleo tiles. Her workshop hums with sewing machines and chatter. But the cost of imported dyes and threads often shipped from Asia has surged. She struggles to keep orders affordable for European boutiques even as clients hesitate. Her art is commerce and memory. She moves gingerly between identity and profitability. In Riga, a high school student, Alec, stands by a frozen canal as dawn-light kisses spires. His parents lost work in rural equipment repair. They commute to the city. He dreams of studying environmental science or engineering abroad, but fears tuition, migration, loss of home. He watches worker trains pass the platforms, smells frost and diesel, imagines circuits of power and electricity. Europe's fracture lines trace themselves in his heart. In Thessaloniki, a ferry captain, Georgos, steers a ship through dawn fog. He transports goods across the Aegean, grain, machinery, solar panels. The cost of bunker fuel has risen, port fees shift, customs delay. He listens to engines groan beneath the hull, to gull cries overhead. The sea is his road, the waves his ledger, and in every port Europe's tariffs and energy costs shape his daily route. In Vilnius, a nurse, AST, steps into the chilly corridor of a public hospital before sunrise. Her breath makes clouds in the air, monitors glow in soft hum. She cares for patients whose respiratory illnesses rise in cold months. She worries about hospital budgets, heating, staff shortages. She remembers when policy promised stability. Now she wonders whether austerity whispers will reach even here. Yet she presses on, hands steady, eyes awake. Dawn will crack light over glass towers, old towns, blackened coal plants, and solar farms. Europe will convene again, its leaders gathering under high ceilings, maps spread, charts blinking. Those rooms will hum with tension, but their decisions spill outward into streets, into fields, into homes. People will rise with coffee, with tools, with student notebooks, with turbines spinning, with sheep or code or paint. The continent must thread local resilience into continental ambition. It must enable towns to generate, share, store energy. It must encourage factories to adapt and retool before they shutter. It must support artists, farmers, engineers, teachers not in token gestures but with structural ballast. Policy and human life must no longer run parallel, but entwine. Europe's narrative cannot be imposed from capitals alone. It must be stitched in villages, border towns, ports, neighborhoods. Its story will be built one rooftop solar, one retooled press, one cross-border rail link, one school empowered. A mosaic, not a single fresco. So tomorrow may be uncertain, but it is also a page yet unwritten. The markets may shift, energy may waver, trade may falter. But the spirit of Europe, its art, its people, its hope gathers there in quiet resolve and in whispered persistence. And somewhere between the market's pulse and the human heartbeat, tomorrow quietly begins.